This video will highlight how to safely repair ice merchandisers manufactured with R290 refrigerant. This video is not a replacement for the R290 service and repair guidelines, located on leerinc.com, and all repairs should be done by a certified technician familiar with the R290 systems. Please read through the technical document for all warnings, cautions, notices, and any changes that may have occurred since the publishing of this video. If you have any questions during the repair, stop and contact the Leer technical service team for assistance. All R290 equipment is required to have special labeling, so it should be easy to tell if your merchandiser is using R290. Labels are located on the serial tag, on the top of the condenser, on the top of the compressor, inside near the evaporator, on the back of the compressor cover, and the back of the merchandiser itself. Red sleeves are also placed over all process tubes. All Leer R290 ice merchandisers carry the same certifications, approvals, and agency listings as our R404A units. But to maintain UL certifications, all components should be replaced with OEM components. Contact Leer or your distributor for more information. Tools and materials required for the repair are pinch-off tool, hydrocarbon leak detector, thermocouples or an infrared thermometer, tube cutter, a saddle or piercing valve, 12-inch hoses or as short as possible to connect to the refrigeration system, a no smoking or open flame sign, propane fittings, a bottle of refrigeration-grade propane, oxygen-free dry nitrogen, a wet rag, an improved fire extinguisher, deburring tool, scale, vacuum pump, manifold gauge set, Schrader valve removal tube, proper PPE, and replacement parts and materials. Opening a hermetically sealed refrigeration system should be performed as a last resort. The system should be properly diagnosed first. Assuming you have diagnosed an issue with the refrigeration system and a repair is necessary, follow the subsequent procedure. Prior to servicing the R290 refrigeration system, please take the required safety precautions. Place your danger placard in a visible area near your work site. Be sure to wear the proper personal protective equipment while performing the repair. Have an approved fire extinguisher within reach. In interior locations, it is recommended that a fan be in place, so any possible leak would be pushed to an open window or the exterior of the building, away from any possible source of ignition. Ensure your hydrocarbon leak detector is turned on, placed close to the floor, and then do not turn the leak detector off until you leave the service area. Be sure to allow the detector to calibrate prior to proceeding. It is important to note your leak detector must be specifically designed for hydrocarbon refrigerants. Lastly, disconnect power from the unit. When repairing the system, please follow proper refrigeration practices, including but not limited to limiting the system open time to under 10 minutes and changing the filter dryer every time the system is open. For demonstration, in this video, we'll highlight the proper replacement of a compressor. To begin, install temporary service piercing valves to access the system on the process ports. If required, remove and set aside the red sleeves on the process tubing. Place the temporary valves on both the suction and discharge process tubes, as close to the crimp as possible. The leak detector may go off during this step, as well as others. Do not proceed with next steps until the air has ventilated. Now, install the manifold gauge set, with hoses that are as short as possible. To remove the refrigerant from the system, open both the high and low sidelines. Release the refrigerant into well-ventilated areas, and if at any time the detector goes off, immediately close the valves and wait for the detector to level off. If you're indoors, we recommend capturing into a recovery cylinder or venting outside. If you're outside, recovery is not required. After removing the refrigerant, purge the system for 1 minute with the oxygen-free dry nitrogen. Now, only after the system has been purged, use a tube cutter to cut out the bad parts. Never use a torch, as flammable R290 refrigerant may still be present in the system. Prep the replacement compressor fully, including cleaning and pre-fitting, prior to the next step to limit the amount of time the compressor is open, and therefore limiting the chances of moisture being absorbed into the refrigeration oil. Install Schrader valves on the process tubes for evacuation and charge. Before and during the repair, you must purge the system with oxygen-free dry nitrogen for a minimum of 2 minutes. The nitrogen regulator should be between 3 to 5 psig. Purge the nitrogen through the high side process tube and allow it to exit via the suction process tube. Verify your replacement filter direction of flow into the capillary tube. Verify proper fitting and begin brazing. After the repair is complete, pressurize the system to no more than 150 psig of nitrogen to leak check. Once it is confirmed that there are no leaks, you can evacuate the system. Release the nitrogen charge to less than 2 psig. Connect your charge line to the vacuum pump via the micron gauge. Continue to evacuate the system until you reach a minimum of 300 microns. Verify that the system holds vacuum to confirm no leak in the system. Now, close the valve on the charging line, as well as the high and low side manifold gauges. Disconnect your vacuum and connect only refrigeration grade R290. Connect your charging hose to the R290 tank. Place the refrigerant on the charging scale and purge the tank valve. Then zero the scale. Open the R290 tank, and if required, the charging port valve on the manifold gauge set. R290 can be charged as a gas or liquid. Open your high side valve and allow all of the charge into the system. After a few minutes, if the system does not allow all the charge to be taken, close your high side valve. Plug in the system and allow it to run for 1 minute after the 2-minute compressor start bleed. Slowly open the low side valve to pull in the remaining charge. Close the low side valve, then close the valve at the tank. Keep the unit running. After the refrigeration system function has been verified and leak checked, the manifold gauge and temporary process ports must be removed. To remove the refrigerant that is part of your charge in the high side and tank hose, use a pinch-off tool and pinch the high side process tube 2 inches away from the process port. Leave the pinch-off tool connected. With your high side port pinched off, open your low and high side manifold gauge valves to remove the remaining charge in your manifold hoses. With the unit still running and your manifold valves open, use another pinch-off tool and pinch the low side in the same manner as the high side. Leave the pinch-off tool connected. Turn off the merchandiser and remove your manifold gauge set. Cut the temporary process ports and pinch down the process tubes to make it easier to weld. Check with leak detector and bubbles before welding. If the red identifying process tube sleeves have been removed for the repair, they must be replaced after the tubes have cooled down. This completes our demonstration of proper R290 service guidelines.